confusion over the public holidays. I think there's a broader discussion on the timing of Watercooler because the number of time there is a public public holiday on Monday does make it a bit of a pain in the ass. But I think everyone is coming. Great. We'll get going in a couple of minutes. We do have a number of topics today. For those of you who are just joining for the first time, the way the watercoolers are structured is we'll kick off with some announcements of the week. We only have a couple, which I'll go into in a minute. And then we'll go through the roadmap items, so things that are currently being discussed as suggestions. And then things that are currently being shipped. We'll have my dad give a quick update there. And then we have a much longer session for name and topic, where anyone can come up on stage and discuss a specific topic related to the Light Pit project. I think we are quite light on attendance. I see some people coming in, which is great. So yeah, feel free to drop a name and topic that you want to go over. Great, thanks Steph for kicking things off. We have Steph, name and topic with the website. You can see Chung and Josh joining. I'm sure Define will want to get up. Need to drop off at 5:30. Okay, great. Then Chung, if you want to give a quick update, or John, whoever's giving it from the NAP team, maybe you folks can go first. Okay, wait one more minute just because we are a bit light on attendance. Alrighty, welcome up Define. Welcome up Steph.
Hey guys.
How are we all doing?
Hello.
Great. I think let's get going. There's a critical mass. Let's get moving. So, welcome everyone to Watercooler. My name's Rich, and I lead the ecosystem of the Light Pit Foundation. And yeah, we have a couple of announcements this week. So there are two people on stage who I think warrant an announcement. We had the embodied proposal, weave proposal pass late last week, which is fantastic. And we're going to hear from Define in a minute. And we also have a new website, which I believe is live, but I'm going to let Steph do a quick introduction. So that announcement is a biggie, and looking forward to Steph giving a quick name and topic on that. So two major announcements this week. Then just to dive straight into the roadmap. So we have the suggestions pipeline as an overview for everyone. We have the suggestions pipeline, which is a way of discussing key upcoming roadmap items. These are items that are not officially on the roadmap, but are worthy of community discussion and need to be scoped further before they are added to the roadmap. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen and we can give a very quick update on that. I can see we have John in the audience as well, which is great. Let's make sure I get the right screen. Can everyone see my screen? Someone give me a quick heads up.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so we have three suggestions that are in the pipeline being discussed. First of all, we have John's suggestion on the payment clearinghouse. I'm going to let John talk about this in a little while, but long story short, there's been some great feedback on the payment clearinghouse, and at this stage, the discussion is going to be parked, but I'll let John come to it in a minute. The on-chain treasury allocation improvements, sorry, this should be on community validation. The first part of this discussion has already been completed with Ben. This was several weeks ago that looked at establishing norms and an evaluation framework for proposals. The follow-up session to that will take place in the coming weeks, which is looking at accountability and how we really hold funded groups accountable once they receive funding. Linked to that is a session that I ran on Tuesday last week, which was funding community engineering initiatives. I'm actually going to present the findings from that discussion. Thank you everyone who took part. And I'm going to be doing that during a name and topic, probably nearer the back end. So there was a really, really great discussion that we had on Tuesday last week. And yeah, I think it's coming to a head, also building on what Ben discussed several weeks ago. There has been a discussion parked for now, which is on the Comfy stream. If I can't see my screen in a minute, but if Peter wants to give an update on that, that's great. But for now, we'll just park the discussion for until there's a clear next step. Awesome. I'll leave it there, and I think, Medad, you're going to share your screen and go through an update on the roadmap front.
Sure. Yeah, no sharing the screen. I'm just going to share the report I made. Not the report, like the canonical update with everyone. So in that picture, if you click on the link, you can see all of the SPEs, both open and closed initiatives. And just to like clarify this, by closed, I mean they put out the retro. It doesn't mean like the team is not working or like the collaboration ended, anything like that. It just means that they posted a retro and updated on the whole status of the work. And there isn't an ongoing work that is funded by the community at the moment about it. And there are also open initiatives that you can see the current monthly updates coming in from Explorer team, Cloud, which their second milestone is done, and their third milestone is going to be done 3 days from now. So Mike told me that they're going to have an update, a demo for us next week. Super looking forward to that. And there is an update from the protocol SPE, which you can read through, see the latest what's happening with the protocol. Also, we have one retro from Frameworks for their year in review. And finally, the embodied proposal, which I'm sure Stefan will go through afterwards. And yeah, that's basically it, the current status of the uh, ecosystem. So, yeah, I'm going to hand it back to you, Rich.
Awesome. Thanks, my dad. And I do recommend everyone just having a quick look. It'll give you an overview of, we'll go put a bit of flesh on the bones of what my dad was talking about there. Great. So that's it from the roadmap section. Chang, I'm conscious that you said that you needed to drop off early. So maybe do you and John, or I think John's up on stage, do you want to give a quick update on that? I'll sort of leave you to coordinate.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm actually testing an issue with the production deployment right now. I've been working on it kind of all day. There's been like some performance issues with the metrics coming through. Hopefully, I can have a demo here, but I'm not quite ready for it. But we have deployed.
So I can chip in to talk, and
There it is.
John, you probably just take time to finish the last build, right?
It's loading. I can go ahead
Okay.
and share. Sorry.
Cool. There you go.
1 moment.
Yeah, well, we're basically shooting to have a release ready this Friday, April 10th, as we originally planned, with the MVP scope as we communicated earlier on. We are going through the final stage of the QA testing and performance tuning. So we hopefully next month in the water cooler we actually can have a domain and everything sorted out. So open to everybody to register talent to start to play with the the very first version of the network product. But today, I think John will show you what you expect, as the core functionality about, see how, network is performing and how can you create the key. And currently, this key is primarily for the scope specific, workflow and pipeline. And then we will extend that to much more diversified, pipeline support in following up. Yeah, John, off you go. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason the page keeps kind of freezing and not loading, but you can see here we've got a breakdown of the pipelines and GPUs available in the network. Now we can see, all of the pipelines, not just live video to video, but some of the stuff that Mike has deployed for Blue Claw and some of the batch pipelines as well. If any data is not showing here, it's just because we just did a deployment and it's still syncing up. But essentially, if you go to like Developer API Manager, your first tab is the models tab, and you can sort by pipeline. Like these are all the LLM pipelines. There's a nice copy button here to get the actual model name to use with an SDK or something like that down the road. Of course, we still have the API integration. Just hoping to show that this performance, the performance of this caching was working better, but it's still having some issues. It might just be like a capacity issue. But yeah, it's basically what we've been working on. We do have a lot more data to show here if it would load. Just a moment. Here's my local instance of it, and that might give you a little bit more to look at. Okay. Yeah, so as I was saying, we have a complete breakdown here. You have the price per model, the FPS on the live video to video pipelines, as well as the minutes of usage per pipeline and model. And then, of course, like a breakdown here by orchestrator and model that's available. We're thinking about adding more searchability and things like that here. There's also actually an API available on the back end, and I'll have to get a link for that for everybody. But that would allow you to, call and get data on the network directly without even having to really be on NAP. Like it's a good visual, but being able to access the API directly has some good uses for it. You can still look into, well, it's a tab there, but yeah, you get the idea. Let's see if I'll find a link to the API endpoints, and they may need to be updated, so I'm still kind of working through that. But it's what I've got.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
John, did you want to say anything else? Sorry.
If there's anything, if we want to talk about the payment clearinghouse, I've got at least a little update there.
Let's maybe separate that out,
Okay.
just to not conflate, and you can have another name and topic
Sure.
to quickly jump in. Does anyone have any questions on the NAT platform? Maybe I have one. I know that we've touched upon it briefly, but okay, so product goes live. I know a huge amount of work has gone into it over the last couple of months. It goes live later this week, early next week. What's the immediate next step after it goes live?
Yeah, it's really a good tie into sort of this payment clearinghouse thinking, right? Like Daydream is where your API integration is. So if you go to API keys, you're able to create an API key by linking to Daydream like you would normally scope. We're still trying to find the architecture. I mean, I think a lot of what I've designed for payment clearinghouse addresses these needs, like being able to see exactly what's on the network at that very moment. Like the data that we have through these APIs are really historical data, so they're not really useful for using the network in the very moment, right? The data needs to come from a remote signer at a payment clearinghouse architecture. So linking that together with scope and providing clear documentation for users to come into NAP and get an API key and start building custom applications or plugins. I know Daydream already has a lot of scope documentation in it, so there's no goal to really, I think, rewrite that, but we do want to focus on that user experience from the SDK perspective.
I can come into at a little bit high level, view on what is next. As you can tell, for the first version of AP, is very much focused on the scope and scope pipeline. So as you say, the SDK, whatever you do in Snap to get API key, you can only get the scope pipeline working. So next phase is to open it up. So payment warehouse is to enable non-daydream, billing provider to be possible on the network, and then enable the other billing provider to offer any other capabilities on the network to be used using the SDK. Okay, so basically the experience and user journey you will see with what you see in this MVP for scope will be replicated for any other capabilities. For example, batch job AI, and others as well. So next user story is to extend the scope centric, accessing and use of the network to the more diversified. Any capabilities on the network can be easily accessible using the SDK. You just simply get API key, and then you can use it, right away with a billing provider, providing those services. So that would be the main story. Also, we want in the next, follow up the scope to explore how can we actually, bring the agent native experiences to the network, developer experiences as well, rather than traditional API centric. How can we enable agent centric, applications building can use the IP network more easily as well. Those would be the two main, user epic, right after this.
Awesome. And maybe a follow-up. Is there a pipeline of folks within the community that you're already planning on onboarding or working with?
I'm currently talking to DeFi. They have good ideas in terms of how actually help orchestrator to onboard more capabilities easier. So we're in the early discussion of that, and also BYOC is one of the things I'm personally prototyping to evaluate. What is possible. As well, I shared that with the Rick already. By bringing any other capabilities very easily, quickly using the BYOC. I think many people have that ideas in the BYOC as well. I think, John's work, is the next phase is focusing on the payment house. That is a critical piece to enable any other capabilities can be provided to the community. I think he will send out the, design proposal, including the product scoping and architecture for that piece MVP, sometime, early next week to get the community a review on that. So once people look at that, you will get a clear picture to say, hey, if I have BYOC capabilities I added to the network, how can I provide that to the community or the developers to use them? So those are the pieces will be shared through that work stream like a payment house. Yeah. Okay, so that first draft is already done. So I think John is updating it. Hopefully, yeah, he already shared in that. So you should say, hey, how payment warehouse is working with NAPA to enable the developer have much easier experience using the whole network, regardless of what kind of the capabilities we want to enable. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
John, do you want to quickly, just
I just wanted
do
to add,
thanks, John.
Yeah, I put a little link in the chat here for some scoping work I did last week on a draft spec for Payment Clearinghouse. It takes into account all the feedback I got from the community on reducing the scope and focusing on really providing an authentication layer to the remote signer that scales across apps and users without prescribing a specific payment on-ramp or a billing mechanism. So that allows us to focus on the architecture and how things connect together. There is some ideas added there as far as adding like a subscription or pay per use type of accounting model to the payment clearinghouse. And that's It's still being worked on how that would work, but there's a lot of detail in that document worth looking at. If you can still see my screen, it is loading a lot better. This is the local version.
We can't see it, John. If
Okay.
you want to reach.
Sure.
Go for it.
And the link should be up now to, let me stop streaming and restart. I think it may be having an issue.
I don't think anyone can actually use that Verso link yet because you need to be in that Verso, group. So yeah, but we'll make that more accessible. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and maybe we can follow up on that next week when there is a live demo. Exciting to see that come.
Yeah. Well, we'll make that accessible through the livepeer.org, domain so everybody can access it.
Yeah. So I wish I could share it, but the Lightning client is a really neat project that Chung had added that we've already had it working directly with the SDK, but I don't know that it's been set up to work with Daydream per se. And that's probably the next step, is to take that API key that we've already linked and spin up a plugin that works like a lightweight Python gateway for streaming. It's really not a full scalable design we're really trying to productize, I think, because SDK is probably where all the fun is at. But allowing someone to just start a stream using a plugin in NAP is kind of a good demo of authentication to a prepaid billing service. So for LivePeer. Yeah, it looks like I can't start the stream again for some reason. So we may have to, let's say, if you'll give me time to reconnect, I can try to do that.
While that's happening, any questions for payment clearing, John, and the payment clearing house? Because it is something that has received a fair bit of attention. Okay, great. It's loaded. Maybe just very quickly, John. Just
wonderful, awesome. Okay, so just another view of the overview dashboard and how clean that is. You got your live job feed here. These update, based on most recent times coming in. We went over all this earlier. The Lightning client is what I was talking about here. So early versions of the SDK, you had to provide a specific orchestrator. Now the remote signer has a discovery endpoint that gives you all the orchestrators in the network. So you should be able to just start a stream here if you have an API key for Daydream, which we've already got linked, in here. So I think that's probably the next step to really taking this to the community and allowing people to use it. But it's really just a demo of how a lightweight plugin or a desktop SDK or a lightweight web server could be built to act as ingest and egress for the network. And I think ultimately, as I was talking about earlier, that there's a docs tab here. We should build out documentation on how to do that on your own desktop with the SDK, of course.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks, Chung. And yeah, super excited to see the developments for next week. I'm going to presume there are no questions, if people haven't already popped it in. Maybe just a question for you, John. Obviously, this has been going through a number of iterations, the payment clearinghouse. What's the next step for you? Is this going to be its own proposal? Is this how do you see this moving forward? I know you're working with Chung, with Rick.
Yeah. So, I mean, my goal for it was really just to get the network moving forward in this direction so that we can start scaling more providers on the network, like people who want to use Blueclaw, or rather Blueclaw, Mike building Blueclaw. It would be nice for everyone to build on the same SDK and around the same remote signer architecture. There may be some reasons for using a hosted Go LivePeer gateway like in Mike's solution today, but I think defining that single entry point for the network is really high value because it allows us to kind of build on each other's work and improve more rapidly. I think currently we have many different paths into the network, and remote signer almost takes us into a whole new realm. But it gives us a lot of opportunity to make a better entry point that works for all job types, I think. And so that was my vision with Payment Clearinghouse, is get the authentication layer right, so that you're able to link, other applications, desktop apps into live peer, with the same experience as other providers.
Awesome. I think let's move forward. If there are any questions to John and Chang, please do drop them in the chat, and we can follow up. Thanks a lot, both of you, and looking forward to next week with the live working demo. Cool. Next up, big announcement. Steph, you're already up here. Do you want to give an update on your topic?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to take over. Hey, everybody. Steph here. I am very excited to share the updated Live Peer website. Everyone see my screen? Looks like we're good to go there.
Yeah.
Cool.
I can see it.
Awesome. So yeah, this version of the website for folks who maybe attended a couple sessions back. Adam, who I see in the audience, I don't know if Adam, if you want to say anything, or I don't mean to put you on the spot, but welcome to come up. Otherwise, and I'll just push ahead here. But yeah, this site was designed by Adam, and then Rick and I, three of us, sort of supported taking it over the finish line. So huge work from Rick and Adam, as always. I think the primary thing to notice here is that this is a surface area specifically for our positioning clarification. So you see we have real-time AI video above the fold. The primary CTAs we're going to focus on right now are going to be driving people to explore the ecosystem, which is on a brand new ecosystem page. Again, huge, big ups to Adam and Rick for pulling this together. So we've got everyone that we know who is live or soon to be live on the network represented here. And this is where you can jump out to individual ecosystem solution pages. And then the rest of the site is serves as this, updated look and feel, and provides an illustrated view of, what you could potentially build with real-time AI video. So knowing that these capabilities or these functionalities are emerging on the network, we still want to be able to show that, yes, these are things you can come here and do via the extended ecosystem. And now that the site is live, very much welcome. If anyone finds anything that's borked or needs to be reconnected, please let us know. We'll be bug fixing on the fly. But really what this does now is sets us up to do all of the rest of the narrative work. So we're going to be iterating changes and adding integrations ongoing, including how we integrate NAP. We're going to be clarifying the audience pipelines on the site. So some of you may notice, like, okay, who is this pointing to? Who is this for? Where are the sort of orchestrators or delegators or other types of developers represented? So we have basically the like MVP user pipelines up on the site now, but we're going to continue to build these out and make sure they're super clear and also actionable for the actions that we want those audiences to take. And then, so with the website out, and this being one of many surface areas for us to proliferate our narrative, I'm turning my attention now to our social and our content engine, which is where the real work is going to happen. So, that's basically what I've got. Happy to answer any questions, and also feel free to add me as a friend, DM me. I'm much better one-on-one. I feel like I can sometimes get lost in the crowd here. So let me know what you think, and let's chat.
Awesome. A huge shout out to the team of Adam, Rick, and Steph. Really a dream team there to get this over the line. Any questions from the audience? I know this has been a long time coming. It's finally live. It's been multiple potential iterations. Would love to get some questions or ideas, feedback from the community, keeping it specific. Maybe I'll kick off with a question, Steph. Obviously, there's stuff here that there's slightly less on this site compared to the previous site, and I know that's intentional. What is the process from here in terms of adding and amending, iterating on the website?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. So yeah, the purpose with the new website, in addition to how, we're building out this ongoing narrative function, for us right now, one of the core ways of thinking is focus. So we want to make sure that, whatever we have on the site is purposeful, it points to something actionable, it points to something legible, and that whatever, wherever you are in the site, exactly, who it's speaking to and what you should do next. In looking at the old site, there was a lot of confusion and ambiguity there. So we, took the principle of, okay, let's go back to first principles really, and strip it down to what is the, sort of MVP information that needs to be here to make sure that the network and our positioning is legible and still credible. And now we can continue. Now we can build back up from where we were. So I think we have a pretty good foundation covered with what's on the site. However, of course, there are going to be things that might be underrepresented, might be missing, hopefully not misrepresented. But if there are, that's something that will be a critical thing to adjust. But the updates and to the site will be happening weekly. In terms of a process for getting stuff up, we don't have like a specific one right now, but I really would just encourage folks to kind of DM me, let's chat about it. But yeah, I think maybe between Rich and I, we can figure out what the best sort of forum or process is moving forward to make sure that the website continues to stay current and credible and legible. And really, actually, the thing I will invite for folks, because I'm turning my attention now to our content engine, and I'll have more actionable things for us in next week and ongoing as well. But encourage folks to hit me with ideas, and because now we get to kind of do the more fun stuff, and hopefully the stuff that is more reflective of the LivePeer network as a whole, rather than just our sort of individual positioning that we're driving home hard on the website, which we also will be driving home through our content engine. But the content engine is many surface areas, so we have an opportunity to have a more holistic view of what you can do here at LivePeer.
I'm gonna ask another question if no one else has a question, but please do drop it in the chat, or if anyone on stage has a question. We have Adam up. Adam, do you want to give a quick?
The man himself.
He's up, but does he have good enough service?
Okay, yes, I think I connected to a Wi-Fi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
Okay, cool. I think maybe just one thing to add. Like Steph said, we're going to be iterating on this quite frequently. One thing I think that's missing on the site right now, and that I flagged, for example, is a clearer path for builders. As a fast follow, we're going to have a more articulate journey for builders who are actually interested in building on LivePeer. Just wanted to say, we'll be iterating on this fast, and thank you to Steph and Rick for all your help.
That was basically going to be my question, which is, what is the pathway for people to get featured on that ecosystem page? And I know there's already a number.
Yeah, I actually, if you'd like, I could share a preview URL of for example, that's actually a new thing where that will hopefully land soon is ecosystem actual detail pages for each ecosystem item. So anyone that's actually listed on the ecosystem, if there's areas that you think can be improved, for example, on the description of your actual project, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, that's I think a good example of a part of the website that will be highly collaborative.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that will feed into Steph's content plan as well. So, or strategy for the future. Any questions? I can see John typing. I don't know whether that's related. Oh, we have IBS.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So, probably I missed it, but is there like a timeline or like a specific period or date when the new website is going live? Because I honestly, I kind of like it and I would like to, explore more of it and, get to know more about the ecosystem from over there.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify your question, IBS. The website is live currently, and we just, yeah, I think Rick dropped it in to the chat there. So yes, you can. What's on the site is live, and yeah, just to is your question there like how is it related to just how the updates will be made ongoing, or yeah, if you could.
Actually, it was just about when the website will go live because I checked it. I think last week after the last community call we had, and it was just in a Vercel link. So I thought probably it's still in that link, but since it has gone live, I will surely check it now.
Yes, we just pointed it hours ago, so you're right on time.
Oh, awesome. And also, I sent you a friend request, Steph.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah, looking to connect IBS.
Awesome. I think there's been a little nudge from John as well for some API endpoints that could be useful. I think Rick is. Oh no, he's potentially responding. No. Yeah, definitely a lot of data to be integrated. John, do you want to comment on?
Yeah. So that first link is an open API spec. It's got like a try it now button for pretty much every endpoint. So if you're building on the website, this would be really helpful for integrating pretty much anywhere. So we really tried to. We could have got the data a little faster directly off queries with ClickHouse, but we wanted to make a publicly accessible API that can be put in just not just in AP, but also the website or even integrate into developer SDK functions. So definitely take a look at that and see how that might help if you're looking to list anything on the website as far as like advertising what we have.
Right. Yeah, I know there's a collaborative effort opening up here. So huge shout out to Adam, Steph, and Rick, and definitely anyone else who has ideas, please do reach out to Steph, who's going to be the primary point of contact to integrate or at least confirm a lot of this stuff. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much. If you have any more questions, chuck in the chat. I'm sure Steph, Adam, and Rick will follow up. Next up, I think we have Define, who is going to be giving a quick update on Weave.
Hey guys,
Go ahead,
thank you, Ritz. Thanks to everyone for voting for the proposal and trusting us. I'm gonna give a quick update on Weave, and I also gonna speak a bit about the fourth one deliverables, which we're talking with.
George, if you're talking, I don't know if we can. I certainly can't hear you. I'm not sure if anyone else can.
Oh, that's interesting. I can. Discord is
It's on me. I'll keep
Discord
quiet.
is working its magic. Can anyone not hear? Let's do them. Okay. I think yeah, why don't no need to remove yourself, but maybe start again. Define, go ahead. Okay, now I can't hear. Everyone's dropping like flies. Let's get Define back up. Here we
Hello,
go.
1, 2.
Yes, 3, 4.
Perfect. Amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a bit about the WIF proposal updates and also a bit about the month one deliverables. I'm gonna screen share. You guys can now see my screen. We have done this forum update where you can see both the WIF updates and also the month one deliverables. Regarding the naming, we're gonna name the SP with growth SP so that it's the mission is clearer and the body SP is gonna remain, but it's gonna have its own roadmap relevant to embody workloads. A team update is that Dane decided for his own personal reasons to leave the proposal without asking for any compensation. While doing that, we did it in a very good spirit and then promised to make both the package game and the source code available. The package game as a MIT license and the source code as licensed to the SP entity or the foundation so that it can be used. So this does not compromise the ability to create more Unreal Engine workloads because they're in a very mature state. But of course, because we understand that people also voted for dance compensation in the proposal, we will actively ask the community regarding what they see appropriate on doing with these funds. There are some ideas. So there are basically three options. The first option is to convert the Dane's compensation role into a new hard role, very focused on demand creation, KPI tracking, marketing, someone with a lot of experience there, which is the compensation more than covers for that role. The second option is to allocate all of the compensation to go towards the incentive packages to create more inflationary growth for the incentives and a bigger principal. And the third option is to return those funds to the treasury. So we will hear the community and we will do what the most stakeholders are believing to be the best. Now, on the governance and transparency, I want to reassure everyone here that all the governance processes and the financial management, including the incentive management, the incentive structure, how the incentives will be paid out, all of that will be public in the open. So for any mistake or if you want anything to be done differently, it will be immediately available, that information, to all of you. And now regarding the month one deliverables, you can see here the spec doc which we have created, and it contains all the deliverables, the process in which the deliverables will be evaluated, including the proof packs, the rule that Rick will have to evaluate all of these deliverables so that retroactive funding can be released, and we can say that confidently and truthfully that we completed the month one deliverables. So everything is detailed here. Just to give you the TLDR on what the month one deliverables will contain, we are actively discussing with Yang on doing a prompt to workflow for Daydream and launch the incentives for that so that users can create workflows from their prompt using the Weave open source tool and the Weave web app, which we're gonna provide for free, both as public good. And once they do that as part of the incentives, we're gonna be routing them towards the creation of a monetized application using these workloads. So as detailed, also in other forum posts on the pre-proposal, we are focusing on the strong assets and proven assets of the network for the benefit of the network that currently is Daydream. And we are doing this as a priority. So we believe that the ability to consolidate effort into frameworks that everyone is working together further our potential for success. Oh, and just like to understand a bit like, but what from intent to Daydream workflow will mean, you can check Synta.io, which does the same thing that we want to do for month one, and it does it for N8N workflow. So it's the same thing, but just for data.
Thanks, Define. I mean, let's maybe just come back to the elephant in the room, that the proposal was passed last week, and there have been some already team structural changes. I think it's important just to like double click on that and think what's happened here, and also moving forward. Is there is it just you working on this moving forward, or what's the plan to integrate potentially other team members? Yeah, maybe can you just shed a bit of light on that?
Yes, obviously, it wasn't my best day when my co-founder told me after the proposal was passed that he was looking for other ventures. Of course, if we knew this before the proposal, it would have been way different. Now, yes, I'm doing my own voted roadmap for the proposal, and as said, there are really three different scenarios of what to do with Dane's compensation. One of the scenarios is to repurpose the role. What I want for everyone here to understand is that embodied workloads existed before Dane enters the SP team, and will exist after his leave, especially with the current state. And before the roadmaps are separated, the track of Dane and mine, you have no issues with the completions of the core deliverables. Of course, if the community agrees, I think it would have been really beneficial to route these expenses instead of a pure technical role to someone who has marketing experience and can take also some initiative additionally to our initiative in this effort.
maybe any questions from anyone here? Because I know that some people voted for, some people voted against. I think it would be good just to hear some additional voices. Also, just to define some direction as to what the initial feeling is surrounding Dane's compensation. I think with everyone on the call, it might be worth just spending a little bit of time. So, does anyone have any feelings on this that are strong or opinionated? I can see Navigare going, so it's always a good sign to get.
The actual contribution was 6K USD converted to LPT plus the monthly inflation rewards from that stacking, which makes it the biggest packet inside the proposal. So you can go to the proposal navigator and see the compensation directly. I'm gonna drop you URL. Yeah. How we can measure it? Oh, what was the actual contribution of Dan? Okay, so I have done the retrospective, and you can see everything that Dane did on the Animator's Handbook, which has been released on the GitHub. So everything is tracked. And that is how you can measure it. I mean, you can see the actual progress on what the features which Dane released, which are present on the package game which he's released, and you can cross compare that with if you run all the commands. He has done a lot of work for the package game. How does this impact your ability to deliver or the time frame of the delivery? Now, it doesn't impact the delivery of my proposal track deliverables. It just doesn't create new features for Unreal Engine workloads and embodied workloads that are not Unreal Engine. But that does not mean that we cannot create new embodied like the demo which I showed you with the 2D characters. We did that without Dane's participation. So we found a fork on OpenLM VTuber, I think. So I forked that and I created the meeting application solo. So we can create other kinds of workloads. This just means that for the Unreal Engine workloads mainly, you don't have any new features. But the existing workloads have so many features which weren't used. So we used about 20% of all the features that Dane has in total. So you probably have 1 to 2 years of people working on creating workloads without reaching a limit. Yeah, so if anyone has any particular opinion on what to do with the funds, any feedback, just let us know. I truly believe that this occasion is truly an opportunity in disguise without wanting to diminish the impact of what happened, but we can make this SP even more demand focused by bringing in someone with the correct capacity and experience to take forward the marketing and growth role. We explained what we are building, and we also explained that this will be part from incentives. So definitely, if you have someone dedicated into a product, into how to communicate it best to the people, I think. But we also can have the first month run and then see what are the exact requirements. So first, create the initial version of Weave, and then look at what exact role are you needing. So I think it's for the best to, if anyone here doesn't disagree, to just wait for the first month and then look what to do with these funds. And of course, if the community thinks otherwise, we can just send these funds directly back to the treasury. So there is absolutely no problem doing that. So
I
Maybe
define sorry, just quickly, I want to ask, like, for the project, what you need now, are you like do you like need like marketers or developers like push your project forward? Because I was trying to like grasp the specifically what you need now to like uh move the project forward. So like, do you need marketers or developers specifically?
no, we just discuss with the with the community what the options are and what are most comfortable with. It's not that we require someone immediately.
okay, and maybe just to keep things moving, what's the best way for people to reach out to you on this and to give feedback? Is there a capture mechanism to get sentiment? Are you going to do a poll?
I think poll is the best way. If we can do a poll on the orchestrator channel with these three choice and maybe any additional ones that people can propose, I think it's the best way of understanding what the community would like for these funds.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think just to wrap up, these things do happen. I know a similar situation happened with the Agent SPE. So yeah, it would be good just to have like a very clear way forward from here, and so then we don't waste that much time on this and can obviously get forward to moving.
Might I just answer to the question of Navigare, why you can't just bring another developer? So if you bring some other developer to work on Dane's original track, it will just take more time and more funds, and you will not have the original result. So it is, if you put some other developer to work on a new track, then you have to create the new track and you have to spend the cognitive capital for you yourself to onboard that developer to create the processes for working with you. And when you want to work rapidly on a project, if you have more than 2 owners on the project, I don't believe you can do the same thing. This is why I'm saying this is a good opportunity for the community to give the sentiment on how do you handle it, because we can handle it in a way that actually enhances DSP, or we can handle it in a different way that actually removes that track. But I don't think that having an extra developer, which I will spend a lot of time to onboard and manage, will be the appropriate solution.
Okay. let's move forward, and I think DeFi Navigare, maybe you can keep going in the chat if you want. And yeah, I think very. I think this week should be a big week to sort of say, okay, this happened, own it, and then move forward with a solution. And obviously, a poll on Discord is not a new standard at this stage in time, but if this is something that you feel strongly about, then obviously it's your job to convince at this stage. Awesome. Let's move forward, and feel free to keep going with Navigare in the chat. Final topic, I think, is I don't think I've missed anyone. Final topic is myself. I just wanted to give a very quick update on the discussion that we had last Tuesday on funding community engineering. I'm going to be very, very quick on this and then just leave us with a question. I think it actually relates to what we were just talking about. So hopefully that would be useful. Just a quickie, can people see my screen? Someone on stage, just give me a quick nod.
Yep.
Okay, great. So yeah, we discussed last week about funding community initiatives and that are smaller in size, and the core problem was that smaller impactful work is getting stuck. So we have initiatives that are maybe 1 to 4 weeks, where you're building an MVP or you're building something useful, but we don't anymore have a grants program to fund this as we did in years gone by within LivePeer. And so what this happens is time to decision can exceed time to build. You take a long time to create proposals, and it slows down the whole process. It leads to bloated SPE proposals. And effectively, there's just fewer experiments shipped, fewer builders retain with a lowercase b. So this group focused on funding and engineering initiatives that really enabled and or onboarded demand. And that was the sort of central point. We'll come back to the difference between enabling demand with public goods or onboarding demand with sort of what loosely called demand bets. But yeah, it really focused on that demand narrative. And most participants agreed that legitimacy to different sort of proposals or different sort of initiatives are easiest when outcomes are measurable. This is how many users are using this application, or how much demand, what's the minutes, what's the fees on the network, etc. And also throughout this whole discussion, public goods as a central point of the on-chain treasury, as a central point with SPEs, drew more skepticism than I've seen in the past, unless it was tied to a clear identified need and unblock. And really what it was trying to guard against was building things because we can, right? To start with a core engineering problem that we could solve, rather than a clearly defined user need. And we should really be avoiding funding in the desert, i.e. requiring this very concrete user signal, user need. And for public goods, the bar was discussed to really ensure that whenever a public good is being sought after on the network, whether that's through a sort of smaller 2 to 20K engineering initiative versus a much larger SPE, how does this enable demand on the network or de-risk a known bottleneck towards demand? So the funding mechanism that was discussed was really around like backloaded funding or retroactive funding in times. And this sort of hybrid approach got more broad support, which was saying, okay, how do we fund demand enabling or demand onboarding initiatives with some sort of like smaller upfront bootstrapping grant or funding tranche through servers or credits or a small grant, and then have more backloaded unlocks. So when impact has been really quantified and measured, how do we have these gates or these milestone unlocks that say, okay, when you hit X amount of demand or X number of users, then funding will be released after the fact retroactively. One of the open tension that was raised is, okay, well, if everything is being retroactively funded, how do we then retain engineers if it's too retroactive or too backloaded? Because top engineers are not going to necessarily work for free. So that tension was raised within the discussion. So a structural idea that emerged with these like two distinct pools of funds. We'll come back to sequencing and prioritization. But we have this first pool, which is around like demand generation, which should be more entrepreneurial bets of people going out into the market of building actual, applications or solutions that try to get demand at scale and to do things like revenue, which will obviously come back to the network through fees. And this was thinking about a more like retroactive proof by adoption approach. And then this pool B, network engineering, public goods, was much more prescriptive work. So there was a talk of, for instance, having a concrete bounty board or RFP process, for instance, with the Explorer having needs identified first, which then get portioned off through bounties. So a lot of this was surface, but the details, scope, owners, governance were not really locked in. And so there were some outstanding questions around doing small work fast, how to reduce that friction, and bootstrapping support where appropriate, and then finally how to make the handoff from build, integrate, and distribute less manual. The primary thing that came out of that discussion was, what is the highest priority to fund at the minute? Should we be thinking around, actually, we should be completely laser focused on funding demand bets with this sort of more backloaded or retroactive funding mechanisms? Or should we be thinking of funding more public goods as the SPE mechanism has tried to enable? What is the highest priority to fund at the moment? And I think that is just the obvious question that went throughout the whole discussion, which is, where should our focus be as an ecosystem? So I'm going to stop there. I think that was a little bit over. But I wanted to leave it with this question live to then have a discussion of it and to get some feedback from people here. If anyone has any strong feelings, and I know that there were people within the discussion, if you feel free to come up on stage. I can see a couple of folks in the audience. John, do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, I just like to chime in and agree that that's a really good summary of what was discussed on the call. One point I wanted to highlight is just this, as you clearly mentioned, what is the highest priority, and how do we define that, or how do we measure it to find out what that is? And I think one thing I brought up a lot, I just want to point out, is the roadmap. Of course, I see the roadmap as sort of like an innovation board that other companies have used in the past, where employees or users also can upvote what's needed and submit ideas. I mean, traditionally it's been done through GitHub issue boards, right? I think there's definitely perhaps some integrations or something to consider for how to reward contributions and gather suggestions together. But I think we do need to maybe have something that provides some weight to voting and that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be really on chain. I think the roadmap's a great start for it, but and then also having something like an architecture board of people who can possibly help guide just at least discussions in the community around what may be high value to help, inform decisions that are made. But that's all the stuff I've got to add to that.
Anyone else? I know this is late on in the day. We did have a productive discussion on Tuesday, and the next step that was, yeah, go ahead, Define, before I come onto that.
What was the process that was used to identify what was the most pressing need to fund in the network?
When you say the most pressing need, do you mean the decision between demand versus public goods, or how sentiment was analyzed within the meeting itself?
No, I mean, when you reached the conclusion that it's demand bets versus public goods, how you reach the conclusion that this is the two most pressing items for getting funded, and what does each of these look like? Because you can have public goods that are also demand bets, and you can have demand bets like in very different flavors. So I don't exactly understand what each of these entail, let's say that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about public versus private goods, obviously private enterprises can contribute to public goods. That's fine, but the ultimate aim of private enterprise is to profit maximize, right? So the question is, do we want to attract a certain by incentivization attract a certain type of founder entrepreneurial persona that will be incentivized largely by, just as for instance with venture funding, by capital, by talent, by other mostly talent and capital credits, that will effectively be looking to build high quality businesses, highly profitable businesses on LivePeer, versus focusing more on the underlying network and having smaller initiatives and experiments which are less focused on profit and user need. Not necessarily user need, sorry, but less focused on profit, commercial enterprise.
Thank you for that. I understand. Why can't we do both, in the sense that the public good can be the mechanism that incentivize these kinds of individuals, and at the end of the chain, these individuals are getting incentivized, so at the same time you're also pushing both directions. I don't believe that it's necessarily a public goods versus demand bets creation. Maybe reframe the question is how we can create public goods that can be used to take demand to generate demand bets and incentivize these bets.
100%. I mean, when I said versus, it's more the and or, right? It's also a sequencing question. It's very difficult to do both of those things at the same time. There needs to be one prioritized over the other. For instance, I think what Brad is saying here, credits for builders to use network provides information to build public goods, which is hinting that actually the prioritization is to get more demand, people who want to build enterprises on top of the the network to then inform what the public goods should be, as an example. And Brad, please tell me if I'm bastardizing that. But that gives an idea of sequencing. So yes, 100% agree with you, Define. It's not an either or, but it is thinking of where do we start? Like, what's the starting point? Because sequencing can often lead to paralysis if you don't get it right.
I agree. And also, I think here we are the starting point. So, with the incentives, which they have been earmarked by the Treasury. So, if you have any particular ideas where you would like a testing ground to see how the KPIs will evolve, how the process will look like, we can work together so that you take lessons from our process into creating this incentive mechanism for your greater funding. You will look out for the foundation. I'm just giving an idea here.
One thing to add on just network credits, I think it's a good model because it avoids us from like overcommitting on spend for demand generation, while also pushing builders to build through our normal product on ramp, like usage tracking and billing and using the SDK or whatever method we have of getting work to the network. And I think that itself will provide a good feedback loop for us. I think some of the initiatives in the past. Actually, the Embody SP is almost a great example in that, it's a completely different path into the network and payments work differently and so on. And the goal, I think, where we get the most value is if we can integrate stuff into the network and build on the same code paths and enhance that at a product experience level. And I think it's the only way to get, a cohesive product out of it anyhow. But just wanted to point out, I think the network credit incentives, rather than like outright funding demand efforts, can help limit and focus our spend a little bit better and drive users towards like more network wide on ramps, if that makes sense. That's not to say I don't think we shouldn't fund like these larger initiatives, but we just have to be careful about how they fit into the overall network architecture and how they add value from a public goods perspective.
I can see Brad furiously typing. There we go. Main loop is demand, credits, and feedback. Public goods work is more ad hoc as things are identified from the builders. Yeah, I completely. This is personally now. So that was trying to capture what was discussed during the meeting. Just coming to my personal opinion, if you think about like what is a good ecosystem to have, you ideally want this combination of people building, enterprises going out into the market, solving real problems, driving, trying to build profitable businesses. Then people researching, taking the learnings from what is being done there and building infrastructure that can ultimately enable the people who want, those builders who want to go out there, those enterprises who want to onboard demand, and then having like some sort of capital source. So there's a talk. This isn't my own idea, so don't quote me on it. But thinking of like that idea of having Google as being, or Alphabet being the primary like tech company or example of a tech company that goes out and obviously contributes a lot to public infrastructure, but then you have sort of research labs that will obviously build on a lot of that, and there'll be an interplay between the two based on the learnings from the market. And then you have something like YC or any venture fund that will be able to fund a lot of that innovation and research that can, make sure that there is interplay between a sort of a flow of human and financial capital. So I think we're still at this point where it's like both are interesting. We have the need for public goods funding, but then there's also this emerging idea of credits, which I will leave open and sort of follow up maybe later this week to get some more signal from this group. Anyone else wanted to comment on that? Define. Did you want to come back in?
Yes, especially on the credits, I really like the idea, but we need to think also that we tried this idea. We practically had inference credits, which we spent to orchestrators. And because you had to manage a decentralized orchestrator fleet and you couldn't abstract the live per system away from your application for testing, this introduces extra engineering overhead. So while designing the credit incentives, I think that the pipeline incentives should be the second step in the fund release. The first step should be bringing someone and incentivizing them to create a pipeline, an application that works correctly. And once that is validated, only then move on the credit pipeline, bringing to the live orchestrator. First, make sure that it's coherent, it's working correctly, so that you don't have issues further on the path.
Yeah, that's a good point, by the way, too. It's really learning and retrospective, from the past year of we had so many builders and we didn't have a clear pathway for them to build on. So some of them just built their own pathways to get it where it needed to be, right? And that's definitely a learning that we brought forward, I think, with the SDK and the remote signer and looking at other like providers and these standards around AI services. I think it's a good progression from where we started actually.
I'm conscious of time, and I wasn't planning on opening this up completely, but I think just wanted to give an update on that discussion. I think the next steps from here is to dive a bit deeper on what each of these funding pools could look like. And we've got a group that I will follow up with tomorrow to give an idea, to maybe arrange another session. So yeah, thanks everyone who attended that session last Tuesday. It was useful. There's also a huge amount of experiments already done, right, within both Web 2, Web 3, if you can call it that anymore. Okay, I think let's park it there. I wanted to, usually we wrap up with wins of the week, which is where people can give a shout out to anyone else in the ecosystem who's done great work for the last couple of weeks. I think let's cut to that, and then if folks want to stay on, then feel free. Does anyone want to kick things off with a win of the week for someone else?
I'd like to give a shout out to Mike for helping out with the NAP data and analytics. He's really gone the extra mile in building that out for us, and even been helpful when we've had many different issues come through the data, and he's helped a lot with the performance. So yeah, big cheers there. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to jump in and give a shout out to Adam for all of his work on the website, and also for his thought thinking partner on some of the stickier narrative work. And yeah, just appreciate everything we've gone through in the last 2 weeks. It's been a big push.
Huge shout out to Steph for coming in only, what is it, 2 months ago, less than, and already really gripping the LivePeer narrative, working with everyone, facilitating a load of sessions. So yeah, awesome stuff, Steph. And obviously to Rick and Adam for getting that website live.
I'd like to give my shout out to Doug for really being there when needed to provide consultancy and give his feedback and helping us with difficult decisions.
Awesome. I think that's about it. Yeah, if folks want to stay on, please do. Otherwise, I think we'll leave it there for this week. And yeah, we'll see you back next Monday for the next one. Thank you, one and all. Take it easy.